And it's great to be on this campus, and as an SMU alum, it's exciting to see some of the talent that's centered around this campus. She also teaches artificial intelligence and personalization here, and it's focused on digital marketers. Then I want to talk about Doug Gray. Doug Gray's got over 30 years of experience in data and analytics. Currently, he's with Walmart, Global Tech, but prior to that, he was with Southwest Airlines. And one of his core projects at Southwest Airlines led to impressive results in annual operating cost reduction of about $100 million. It was specifically focused on augmentation. I want to jump to Venky. Venky Shankar, who is an esteemed professor here at SMU. Venky is a renowned professor that has experience at not only SMU, but prior to that was at Texas A&M. Venky's expertise extends into digital business and marketing, strategy, retailing, and international marketing, as well as pricing. And then next, Abhi. Abhi Vise is marketing and digital personalization at Verizon. And Abhi's a visionary leader that focuses on generative AI and analytics. His expertise lies with the intersection of cutting-edge technologies and data-driven insights. So again, I had to give a little bit more perspective on some of the talent that we have here, and I'm excited to jump into questions with each of you. So the first question I'll start with is for Venky. Let's talk about the industry a little bit, and why don't you give me your perspective on the state of the marketing industry right now?
Thank you, Jerome. First of all, big shout out to the organizers and SMU hosts for having this wonderful conference. Wonderful to be along with the panelists. I'm here, I'm like a kid in the candy store. I'm here to learn as much as possible, right? So really drink from the fire hose. But thank you for asking this very easy question, right? It's like a softball, okay? Tell us about how the industry's evolving, right? All right, I'm going to be really provocative, okay? And some of you might even think I'm an alarmist, but that's okay for me, okay? I've been branded worse things before, so. But I'm going to say that marketing is dead, all right? And you were going to say, what? Are you not going to have marketing jobs? Are you not going to, have marketing faculty? And where do I find my next paycheck? Right? All of the above, right? It is it could be a great concern, right? When I say marketing is dead, I mean that marketing as we know it today, as we practice it today, may not exist tomorrow, right? And why do I say that, okay? So like any true academic, we always start with some analysis, right? We want to look at some data. So if you look at what is happening in the last 10 years, right? From 2014 to 2024, right? I would say three major trends. One is chief marketing officers. Their tenure has dropped from 48 months to 37 months, right? Is that good or bad? Bad, right? Okay. Well, good if this CMO end up being CEOs. Okay, that's the only time it is. Fortunately, we don't have data to show that. So that is not very concerning. Now, you might say, oh, everybody says, oh, marketing in crisis, our tenures are getting shorter and so on. So you have to do a realistic benchmark. How does it compare with the tenures of CFO, for example, CIO, right? CTOs, right? Again, research tells that marketing is still lagging behind in terms of shortest tenure. CFOs' tenures are also coming down. Don't get me wrong, right? They're also concerned. I go to some of the meetings and they say, oh, we have to do some soul searching, Our tenures are coming down. We are not relevant. We need a seat at the table, right? Whatever it is, right? But the fact is that marketing is lagging behind. Even CIOs tend to live longer. I don't know if manipulate the information, right? Right, maybe. 2 years, So Doug is right that is one data point that in terms of trend. What's the other trend? Well, marketing expenditure as a percentage of overall sales has been dropping, right? It's been dropping from 12% 5 years ago, 2017, to now 6.6%, 6.7 maybe, right? In the Fortune 400 corporations, whatever that is. And these are very recent data. Many of you may have seen that, right? And there's a correlation between the two, right? Why is this happening? Right? Because marketing is relevance is being questioned. And marketing as we knew, the old style, 80% of your budget goes to mass media advertising. We know that linear advertising has been declining, right? We know digital advertising has overtaken linear advertising. Not only that, we also know retail media has grown in prominence compared to conventional media, right? We know that digitization is on the rampage. We know that AI is taking over, if not already taken over, right? There's a lot of hype, okay? But there's some truth to the technology. Technology is changing some of the things from the marketing standpoint of view. So I would say that's the reason why I'm saying marketing is in crisis, because we have to, as marketers, reinvent how we do marketing. And the problem is that marketing traditionally has been taught in terms of 4 Ps. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong in making decision on the 4 Ps, but the real challenge to marketing now is that how do we better understand who the customer is? How do we engage the customer? Because that customer now, there's a demographic shift. We all know that Gen Zs and millennials are overtaken the baby boomers and Gen Xs, right? And that means a drastic change in what they're doing. And that means also a shift in how they want to consume messages in terms of marketing communication, what kinds of products and services they want. They want to be delighted. They want to be entertained. They want to be engaged. So customer engagement becomes very important. And I have to put in a plug here, because I am academic director of the Briley Institute of Customer Engagement, which is what we are really focused on. And so this is a real serious issue. How do we really engage these 170 million TikTokers, right, who seem to be consuming everything differently than what is happening? And I think AI, generative AI, which I'm sure other people are going to talk about, I don't want to steal the thunder, but that is a question. Demographic shift, technology trends, and changing aspirations of people, and more importantly, all the global sustainability and value-based issues, right? Diversity, equity, inclusion, all the things are changing the landscape. And we as marketers have to really wake up. And in fact, Sam Altman is saying that 95% of marketing jobs will not exist today in 5 years, right? And I want to leave it to the other panelists to talk about it, but that's provocative. I want to think about it. And you can actually get 25% more pay if you are an AI assistant marketing executive today, right? And those are things that I think we have to think about, and we have to literally wake up and do things differently, right? Is that provocative enough?
Well, first of all, I hope you guys had your coffee this morning, because I appreciate that. Let's go to the next question, and I think it's a good segue. This one will be for Abhi. Give us an overview of where you see AI and marketing tech, as well as the state of the products around it.
Well, marketing has been using AI for quite some time. We were the first ones to adopt, so it's nothing new for us. From audience targeting, segmentation, personalization, we're also using lookalike, audience modeling, propensity modeling, and if you go to websites, you find these product recommendations on apps and websites. We have been doing that for a time. And on the measurement side, we have been using LTA, MTA, media mix modeling. So we are pretty used to it. But what has changed is the rise of Gen AI since November 30th of 2022. So that's literally 16 to 17 months of time frame. And now with this Gen AI, us marketers, we have access to such a vast amount of content library. Think audio, video, text, which we did not have. And with this massive library, we can really achieve that true one-to-one personalization that we have been dreaming about. Think about, we always talk about right message, right time, right place, right device, right context, right? All this is possible now. But what's different is that when you're looking at the customer journey, the challenge is still there. How am I going to achieve that? And with this Gen AI, I think it's going to help us achieve that. And it's going to help us scale that true one-to-one personalization. And let me take one step further, is that think about, your creative A, which is delivered in this context, right? and the same creative delivered in another context, both have a different conversion rate. But now with AI, I have the ability to see a message level impact and an audience level impact. And with advances in Gen AI, I will be able to use the most optimal combination of media, message, and strategy to reach that target audience, something that was never possible before. Let's take one step further. So now I can ask an LLM, okay, tell me why did this ad perform better to this audience in this context? And hopefully that LLM gives me a reasonably good explanation. Again, this is futuristic, right? Gives me an explanation, and that same model is able to fine-tune and learn from its self-governing algorithms and predict the next better outcomes. Now think about that. Everything is happening real time. We are getting access to real-time performance and optimization data, and we can change our marketing spend on the fly. How cool is that, right? But too bad, only 1% of your digital marketing is currently using messages created by generative AI. So just imagine if this becomes 60 to 70%, how much visibility we marketers we have and how much job security we will get, because we can prove that we can optimize every single dollar we are spending with proof. So that's how I see, Gen AI is going to help.
Appreciate that, Abhi. I'd love to have anyone else from the panel chime in. Doug, I just noticed you don't have a mic, so I'll pass mine down.
Thank you, Jerome. I thought that was great. I'd just like to say that when I got my MBA here, I wish I had taken a course from Venky in marketing. That was inspirational. Just to follow up on what Abhi said and some of the other comments, somebody's going to have to write the prompt for the LLM. So don't fear that all the jobs are going to be gone. I think that somebody then has to act on the result of the prompt, right? There are a lot of great tools out there, and just two of them that I'll mention. One's a plug for Walmart. Walmart just released a product called Walmart Illuminate, which enables you to create intelligent surveys and then analyze the data that comes out of those surveys using Gen AI. Many of you don't probably know that Walmart's a technology company. We actually build products and then sell them to other folks. One of the other products that I've discovered out there, and just I haven't used it personally, but read a lot about it, is Salesforce and their new Einstein product. And one of the things that caught my eye in there was lead scoring. And I worked on two projects in my career where, one at Walmart, where one of our B2B businesses was just starting up and they were going to deliver goods, just like we could deliver groceries, but we were going to pick up tools at Home Depot and then deliver them to job sites. That sales team went out and did what every other sales team does. They bought ZoomInfo and they started going through 1 million companies. And I said, you're going to take a while to do that. And their hit rate wasn't exactly what they wanted it to be. So they came to us and I said, give me your wins and give me your losses and let me build a profile of your best companies. They're your best target audience. And we use some very sophisticated machine learning and AI tools to help them model their ideal customer and then rank and score every single one of those companies for sales team. I won't tell you what their conversion rate is now, but it's a lot bigger than it was. But the other thing that I worked on before in my career was a similar situation where a company was selling healthcare insurance. It was Part D, which is the Medicare supplemental insurance. They were doing the same thing. They were going through and just calling alphabetically down call lists. And we found through analysis that their primary customer was a woman that was either widowed or single, or divorced, over 55, not currently employed, retired. We had this great profile. And we were able to then key in to exactly who their audience and who their customer was. So those are just a couple of examples that I can give you of how powerful machine learning is to improve the efficiency through augmentation of human beings, not just automate out the jobs. Thank you, Jerome.
Let's go to the next question, and Doug, I'll direct this one to you also. Can you give a perspective on how you're seeing companies apply LLMs and Gen AI in marketing and customer applications?
Yes, so recently Walmart just formed a center of excellence for Gen AI. So like everybody else, we're trying to figure this out. But we've got hundreds of projects going on across the company, and I'm the data science lead for that COE. And I've had the opportunity now to research a lot of different companies as well as research what we're doing. I think two of the most powerful things that people are doing, following up on what Abhi said, is customer sentiment. Whether it's from social media or reviews of products or on your brand, there's a huge volume, as Abhi said, audio, video, social media, anything that's said online. You can use LLMs to figure out what people think about your company. Writing product descriptions is another one that we're using. When we have new products come into Walmart Marketplace, we're analyzing that product and then figuring out how do we write the best possible product description. And when somebody maybe too liberally borrows from somebody else's, which is fraud, and you could call it what you want, we can actually detect that as well. So identifying fraud in product descriptions. Some of the things that we're doing at Walmart, my team in particular, in the area of returns. Reverse supply chain is a huge challenge for all retailers. We recently did a sample of 40,000 return reviews on different products, bikes, clothes, whatever. And about half of it is what you expect. Didn't like the material, it didn't fit, didn't like the color, whatever. A lot of it is the chain fell off the bike. And we were able to, through LLMs, identify 50% of the root causes why people return things and post an 8-figure savings in avoided returns. I think that the other application that we just recently started working on is what's called soft bundling. So everybody has analyzed Market Basket, right? But what if you get a new product and all you have is the description? And let's say it's a laundry product, like laundry beads or something, and you're trying to couple it with the best other products in your portfolio. All you have is the description. So we're using LLMs to actually analyze product descriptions and then soft bundle them even before one sale has ever been made. So those are a few of the things, Jerome, that are going on with Gen AI. Sure.
So I'm a little bit, my thesis is against LLM because I mean, okay, we're all talking about LLMs, but the future is going to be SLMs, which is small language models, which if you look at it, all the research in MIT CSEL, that's what they're doing right now. LLMs, we all know, give them 10x compute, 10x data, they do wonders, but they are very, very expensive. Just the cost to run an open AI platform is around $700K per month, or a day, sorry. So now do that math, I mean, millions of dollars of CapEx into that. But a small language model, which Microsoft developed 5.3, right? It is very, very efficient. It is not energy hungry like your LLM. It doesn't require that much compute, doesn't require much data. So they literally fed a small it uses structured data. So they fed them a book. And believe me, the output which that small language model was able to give in such a short period of time was much, much better than compared to what an LLM would run. Don't take me wrong, LLM, they will have their own space, but the futuristic version would be small language models, which companies and organizations would invest in.
Appreciate that, Abhi, and definitely love the commercials for Microsoft. All right, this next question is for Sharlene. What are some of the use cases that you are most excited about related to Gen AI? And what have you seen work and start to be scaled through organizations?
Absolutely. I feel like there's two things that I like to think about when we're thinking about AI, because we're throwing around a lot of words here. We're throwing large language models, small language models, data science, all the things. What we need to think about from AI is that it brings us two things, efficiency and opportunity. So when you're thinking about bringing AI into your organization or just into the work that you do, think about what are the ways that you need to be more efficient. What are the ways that your team could be more efficient? What are ways that your organization could be efficient? That's where you need to start as you're thinking about scaling AI for your organization. We all talk about all these different platforms and the ways that you can bring it. Sometimes those things are expensive. But AI gives us the opportunity, which is my second idea here, that AI is for everyone. When you think about the platforms that we have, like how Abhi and Doug are talking about Verizon and Microsoft and Walmart, it ends up being very overwhelming. But the opportunity that AI gives us to scale is that you can use it in your opportunity. So a use case from these types of things, an example of this is if you have the most tedious job that's going on in your marketing world, like segmentation or targeting, and trying to figure out how to get to that right consumer. Being able to understand that the machine learning part of AI can help you get there and get there really quickly. And it gives you the opportunity to be able to do the fun part of the work, which is the creative part of creating those campaigns. But another use case of this is once you've gotten that target audience, then you can start to figure out what are the best channels they can jump into. And then how do I measure that? And then how do I change the different opportunities within those campaigns? So when you're thinking of using AI, don't get caught up in the idea that it has to be, I need to implement a large system to get this working. Think about the tools that you're already using today, like Microsoft Teams has an amazing plug for you in terms of their AI capabilities. There's a lot of other systems that you can use like Writer, which is a way for your brand voice to come through so everyone in your company can write in brand. So look for those smaller opportunities that help with your efficiency. That's the best place to start. That's the place where you can get traction that you can then bring to your leadership and say, hey, in my department, we do X tasks, and it takes us 15 or 16 hours to do that. Is there a tool that's available now that can shorten that time? Which then gives you the ability, because I mean, how many of us are overstaffed? We're all understaffed. It gives you the opportunity to do the fun part of your job and get that together. So when we start to think about use cases, Jerome, I like to think of it in those two places. What is the efficiency that you have, and what's the opportunity that you can bring to your area or your company?
Perfect. I appreciate that perspective. I'll direct the next question to Venky again. How can generative AI help organizations keep their customers at the forefront of their business?
I think my esteemed panelists have already talked a lot about generative AI being able to help you lead. But one way I like to think about it as an academic is we like to think in the frameworks, right? So imagine a 2x2 framework, right? Where on one axis we're looking at whether we're talking about efficiency, improvements, or cost savings. And the other end of the spectrum is demand generation or demand improvement, which is really the heart of marketing, right? If you think about marketing, it's all of our customers and it's all about creating demand. And the y-axis, think in terms of short term versus long term, right? Short term is 1 to 2 years, 3 years, maybe long term is 5 to 10 years, whatever it is. And if you look at all the buzz and chatter, it's all about this short term, low hanging fruits, efficiency. Like you said it right, Sharlene, that we have to look at those points where we can really squeeze that extra dollar, and Walmart is very famous for that. How can we do this better, right? And we all know that low hanging, but really, where is the biggest opportunity that you talked about? It is in that right top quadrant. What is basically a long-term impact, but basically demand generation. What are the new markets you could create? What are the new business models you could do with generative AI, right? And if you think about it, generative AI is threatening to really upend what we do in marketing, the routinized tasks, like what Doug talked about, product descriptions, copywriting, used to take 6 to 8 weeks, now in a snap, right? And all the A/B testing. I can test 100 campaigns very quickly. All those things are fine, all right? But where is your business headed? How are you going to get the NVIDIA type of, boost to your market cap in your industry? Are your industries going to be limited to, let's say, telecom? Your industry is going to be retail, right? Your industry is going to be tech. No, we never know that. Where are the opportunities? That's where the Gen AI should be targeted at, right? You talked about soft bundles. Can we identify those bundles, right? You talked about saying we can create soft, even before somebody's bought something, we can look at some patterns and identify. Why can't we look at how our business has to evolve in 10 years, 20 years from now? Why can't the big oil corp companies look at the future of energy industry using Gen AI, do some projection and see that how can we get in there, right, with a mix of energies, right? And how can healthcare companies, for example, right, move from just peddling drugs, I'm talking about, good drugs, right, pharmaceuticals, right, to, providing healthcare solutions, right? that actually improve the lifestyle of people, right? And they can do that with Gen I. They can not only discover using better Gen I newer molecules. They can also find better ways to partner with them. They can cut costs, right, in the system, which is the most bloated system in the world. 15% we spend on healthcare, right? Don't get started talking on that. But Gen I is actually, we are just scratching the surface, right? Tip of the iceberg. Now you mentioned a great thing, Abhi, which is really, we're stuck on this LLMs, which is really high compute and high cost and other things. You talk about, I fully appreciate that, moving to small, and I'm also advocating medium, right? Don't forget the medium, right? What is a medium? That take some of the best things of the large language models, fine tune it more and more towards it. The problem with small language models is that it becomes so limiting and so specific that you can generalize, right? And what might work in one context, one locality, may not work in that. So it's important for you to create that. I feel like that's really the goal that we all have to strive for. Let the other panelists chime in.
Yeah, I mean, great point. I mean, think about like when Salesforce started, right? They created an ecosystem. Again, we can use Microsoft too. Okay. But what happened with Salesforce is that it catapulted another hundreds of companies with billion-dollar caps. So it created a tsunami of companies which were built on the ecosystem of Salesforce. So think about what Gen AI is going to do is that it's going to give you a platform. Right now, Gen AI, we think it is reasoning. You talk to ChatGPT, you think but it's not doing anything for you. Right now, it's just scrubbing the database, spitting out an information, and giving it to you in a format. It's great for writing some content, but is it really doing anything? No, not right now. So when it's going to start doing things for you, when these, what we call is Auto GPT, which was launched March 30th of last year, that's when is the wave of all these auto bots or auto agents are going to take care of your stuff. So let me give you a real world example. Let's say I say, Sharlene, let's go to Cancun, Mexico. She thinks about 50 different things in microsecond. Oh my God, what flight, what airline, what hotel, Uber, Lyft, taxi, what trips, what should I see? Now, imagine a scenario where she has this swarm of bots who will do everything for her, from hotel booking to research, and they gave her 3 options. She picks one. How much cognitive load has reduced in Charlene's mind, right? And she just had to pick 1 out of 3, and that bot agent does the booking for her. That's the future of Gen AI that we are looking, and that's not very, very far. I mean, it may take 2 years, 4 years, who knows, but that's what it's going to work. That's what it's going to reduce the cognitive load which we have in our mind, and that's the future when these agents will be doing things for us.
I think ultimately, just real quick, ultimately when we think of that example, the way that generative AI has really changed how we use AI is in the fact that it is easy to use. Just like Abhi was talking about in that Cancun example, before, to use AI, before Salesforce and Microsoft really kind of pulled together these ability to have an interface that's easy to use, you had to know a lot of coding. You had to know a lot of information. You had to know algorithms and the way that things move together. But with the way that generative AI is, because at the core of it, it is a language learning model. When we think of that, think of this generative AI as learning like a child learns. It learns by sights, by seeing, by touch, by the information you feed it. It also interacts with you in that way. So instead of having to know tons of algorithms and understanding the way that the whole system works, what generative AI has done in the last 18 months is been able to interact with us in a very simple way. And that's what's the powerful part of AI and the business that we're doing today. It is the opportunity. It's open to everyone. You don't have to be a coder. You don't have to know those algorithms. You can then speak to it very simply and be able to get that experience and then reap that benefit very quickly.
Just a small thing to add. Abhi's scenario is not very far because 2 days ago, your good friend, or frenemy, Google has announced Gemini. You can use Gemini to do these trip scenario planning where you can actually get all the images of all the cities you'll be walking through or all the beaches you'll be going through in Cancun and so on. So it's already out there, just a smaller.
So the secret is the With our time left, I'm going to pivot a little bit, and I'd love to get feedback from everyone on this one. And then what we'll do is turn it over to the audience for maybe a few minutes of questions. When you think about this new era, if you will, that we're in, and the future, how do you incorporate ethical elements into this and ensure that outputs are trustworthy? And how are you seeing organizations think about that, or how do you think organizations should be thinking about that? And I'll start with you, Doug, and then we'll just kind of work through the panel.
Thank you, Jerome. Just to follow up and emphasize what Abhi and Sharlene said, I think whatever you work on, we have to be very efficient because things are expensive. So we have very high bars on value before we are assigning somebody to an NVIDIA cluster, by the way. So I certainly recognize that that's expensive, but I certainly agree with the efficiency as well. And the tools like Copilot, no offense, Jerome, they do help you improve efficiency with not only lead scoring, but also just the next step. What should I do next? What offer should I make? So definitely agree with both of those things. In terms of ethics, Walmart has a very extensive data governance, ethics, compliance organization. Trust me, I get emails all the time from them, and I go to training regularly about data security and data privacy, the laws that we engage with in Europe and abroad and here in the United States at a federal and state level. And my students ask me this all the time, and my first response is always, don't break the law. Do the right thing, to quote Spike Lee. And we have to be very careful with our data. I mean, if we're using PPI and we're using credit card information, which we don't store, obviously, that's of paramount importance in every single thing that we do. And every single project that we do at Walmart has to go through a very rigorous screening process. Are you using any of these kinds of data? Are you using profiling in the way that it should be used versus not being used to screen out or discriminate? So the short answer is ethics, compliance. It's extraordinarily important in AI because the more powerful the tools get, the more risk there is associated with them. So I'll stop there. Suffice it to say, it's important.
And I say AI is nothing without HI, which is human intelligence. So keep that in mind. I mean, every AI application needs that human element, and it will need a constant oversight of human, then only they will perform. So AI plus HI gives us IA, which is intelligent automation.
I think one of the things that we have to really take a look at is this is the Wild West. Right now there's very few rules. AI, different systems right now are being trained on just things that are on the internet. So when you think about it, it's being trained on Reddit or things that are on Google search or even just image libraries. So you have to really take a look at as you're bringing AI into your organization. What is the AI bylaws that your organization and your legal team feels very comfortable with? You want to be very close to the legal team to say what protects our organization. The second piece is you have to be really clear on what are the ways that we want to use AI as an organization. What makes sense to us? Because like Abhi was saying, there's the artificial intelligence and then there's the human intelligence and the authentic intelligence. You have to meld those two together because AI itself, because it's learning, much like a child, you have to guide it. And there's some things it doesn't know are against the law or using images that may not be appropriate or using content that it's not authorized to use. So there is still a very large amount of oversight that you have to look at ethically and regulation-wise.
I mean, there was an AI blunder where a chatbot agent sold a Chevy Tahoe for $1. You probably have seen it. Just Google this.
That Chevy Tahoe runs really good.
Think about that.
That's a good deal.
Look at the prompt engineering done by that genius engineer. He challenged. And just, I mean, anybody who's into prompt engineering, take a look, and it's just so beautiful. He jailbroke the again, I shouldn't use it, was Microsoft's OpenAI. But,
Yeah, but I tend to agree with my fellow panelists, but I also want to bring up relating to ethics safety, AI safety, which is, by the way, recently, 2 days ago, Europe has agreed on a set of AI ethics rules, which is actually a good starting point. I don't know if the US will get there any soon, but it is a good starting point for the ethical framework. But the safety is an important issue. A lot of us really think that, the extreme wild scenario of AI, breaking loose and, becoming a monster and so on. But I think some of the safety issues are, relate to things like self-driving vehicles, right? Drones, things that are in really immediate future, yet we're not paying much attention, right, to the safety issues. One of the biggest drawbacks of this, this efficiency drive towards AI, use AI blindly, right? And we go to the stage which becomes so dependent on AI that we have no clue what AI is doing, but we're just doing what it recommends, right? So if it tells, discriminate against somebody, we will do it because I just followed AI, right? We have to be very, very careful about that. One of the biggest problems is hallucinations, right? And, in my college days, hallucinations came from a different source. But now the hallucinations are different in LLMs, right? But there are some cures for this. There's a methodology called RAG, which is actually promising, at least to minimize it. You talked about, preventing those prompt engineering blunders, right? And we have to pay attention to that. And all of these have very important safety issues. Imagine a world which tomorrow we wake up, we depend on AI, we have no idea. We've dumped down everything. We don't need coding. We don't need computation. We don't need to know even languages. What kind of world are you getting into here, right? I think that is a very important, serious issue. We need to have a framework for that.
Well, I appreciate everyone's input, and as I said, this is a great group of panelists here with a lot of good insights. I don't know if we're going to have time for questions from the audience, but the panelists will be around the rest of the day. It looks like we have an opportunity for maybe one or two.
Thank you. Fascinating discussion. I appreciate you all sharing your perspectives. My name is Anderson. I work for a company called Team Snap, which deals with youth sports. So from a parent's perspective, I've got 3 kids. You're a professor. My kids will come home and tell me that, shamefully admit that they've used AI on their projects. How do you prepare the next generation to use AI responsibly so when they get out into the business world, they're actually employing those same tactics and frameworks to use AI responsibly in their business as they've sort of learned to use it academically?
Sharlene, you want to answer? You're teaching
Yes.
the course.
Yes.
She's actually teaching the same topic.
It's a really good question, and we're seeing a lot of that, especially as we're looking at it through academia, where it's like, how are they using it? It's not a shortcut. What you have to really start to instill within people, whether you're in business or whether you're going through school and learning it, is you have to instill the idea that it is a resource, just like you are resourcing an encyclopedia or Wikipedia or things like that. Everything has to be sourced. Everything has to be documented in a way. So whether or not you're using AI to help you generate ideas or generate information, you have to really impress upon the idea that it is a resource and it must be cited. It must be said that you used those pieces of it. And that gives you the idea as you're starting to, whether you're doing a project for work or a project for school, of this is the same as if I was referencing an author or a book or an expert in this way. How am I doing those things? And how am I giving credit where credit is due? That's where we're going to start to see a lot of reckoning in the next 18 months after AI has really jumped into the vernacular here of how are you giving credit for people's thoughts, people's ideas, and what's going on. Because ultimately, and this is a good thing to tell your kids, AI doesn't create anything. AI synthesizes ideas together. So if you got an idea from AI, it was because it read it on someone's page, it saw that idea somewhere else. So you really have to be looking at where does that material come from? And would you want someone to take your thoughts and your words and use them without credit to you? And that's a good way to kind of start that conversation with that younger set.
Yeah, I want to add something more to this. If you look at the history of our learning, we moved from slide rule to calculators. At that time, people said, oh, if people start using calculators, they are, you don't know whether they know the multiplication tables. They can add, subtract, and so on. Then we gave up on that. I said, okay, to use the calculator, right? And then for calculators, they said, oh, they are going to use Excels and computers, right? Oh, how are they going to know what's behind all of these math formula and so on? Then we gave up and said, okay, you can use Excel. Okay, you can use. From there, said mobile device that's got like all kinds of aids in it, right? How are they going to know anything? Then we gave up on it. And we are going to be in the same situation as Sharlene says. If it is intellectual property, we want some acknowledgement. But I want to go a little bit beyond that. She said it's only synthesized, it can generate, right? That's why it's generated. So in other words, you can ask it to write poetry, right? So you can say in an English class, write a poem, and then your son goes there and says, okay, ChatGPT, give me the poem on this, right? And then, just passes it off as their creative element, right? So one of the things I do at college level, like unfortunately I'm not at a high school level, is that I ask people to use all these tools, but tell me the prompt that they use, tell me the answer, and then go beyond that and say, what did you read this and can you critique it, right? Can you look at it and say what could be wrong, what could be hallucination, and did you check on that, right? All those things. So if you actually make them think beyond that and then tell them this is actually a source or a tool, and can you go one up on that, right? And that may be the way to go, right? But I think it's futile trying to mandate people, oh, no ChatGPT allowed and other things. We're going to monitor using all kind of cameras and all this. You can't do that, right?
Thanks for this. It's been really great. I've got a couple of quick questions about Abhi and Sharlene's trip to Mexico. And it sort of gets at, I think, what the themes you were surfacing in your last question, Jerome, but when you are planning that trip and booking that trip and you're leaning on generative AI to help you do it and bots, what are the sort of motivations behind the bots in surfacing flights, hotels, et cetera? And what is the sort of business model that's making that possible? And then the second is when you're getting recommendations for where to go in Cancun, that content is coming from somewhere, most likely a publisher who's invested time and resource and expertise in developing those recommendations. Who's paying them? So essentially sort of like what are the business models that are going to be behind this technology that are going to enable it to scale, and are they equitable?
I can actually take that one. One of my jobs along the way was I was the CTO at Travelocity, founder. And we were experimenting with this type of technology, believe it or not, back in the 90s, and it never made it out of the lab for compute power and other reasons. There's a very good story that you can go Google. It's a company called Wayblazer. It was founded by Terry Jones, who was also the founder of Travelocity, and they built a phenomenal, powerful AI LLM to do exactly what you're talking about. It's exactly the scenario that Abhi laid out, trip planning. And they did proof of concept with several large, notable brands, hotel companies, tour companies, et cetera. And while the AI is successful and very powerful, the integration costs and the adoption costs and the implementation costs were so great, not a single one of those companies signed up to buy a license. And Wayblazer ran out of money, and they went out of business. And this is Terry Jones, who's a god in travel technology, right? He's a friend of mine. And what he told me was, it's the old, you can lead the horse to water, but you can't make him drink, and you can't make them pay for the water once they get there, right? So AI is very powerful, but travel is actually a field that's actually lagging behind in the use of these technologies. And I worked in travel now and retail, and I can tell you it's exponentially different. The potential is there, but somebody eventually, either the cost curve has to come down, or people have to see the investment and see the incremental value before they can implement that bot scenario.
Okay, well, I appreciate the questions from the audience, and I think the panelists will be around the rest of the day, and we'll be open to any questions that you might have as side conversations. So thanks again, everyone. Take care.
Thanks, Jerome.